like the way you talk, I like the things you wear. I want your number tattooed on my arm in ink, I swear. Cause when the morning comes.
Hello and welcome to the new season of Kiwi Bred. Our first episode, we sink our teeth into first season sires, and we're at Lance and Bridget O'Sullivan's beautiful property just outside of Matamata, the Red Barn, and I've got two wonderful guest hosts in Andrew Stewart from Arian Pedigree and Danny Ralston from NZB. Welcome in.
Hi, good to be here.
Thanks, Em.
Let's crack straight into it and start at the top. We've got US Navy flag, who's going to be standing at Valachi Downs for $20,000. And Andrew, he was the leading 3-year-old male on the 2018 World Thoroughbred rankings. He's a champion 2-year-old, he's a champion 3-year-old. There's a lot to like about this horse.
Yeah, very much so. And he raced 11 times at 2, which some of the Aidan O'Brien horses can do when he thinks a lot of them. Was good enough to be taken over to Royal Ascot as a maiden. Where he performed pretty well. Taken back to Ireland where he won his maiden, ran second in a Group 2 at Newmarket, and then strung together 3 consecutive wins, the first the Round Tower Stakes at Curragh, and then the double at Newmarket, the Middle Park Stakes and the Dewhurst. He's
out of a really good mare as well in Misty for Me.
Yeah, she was a champion filly in both France and Ireland. This horse himself is a full brother to Roly Poly, who won 3 Group 1 races and a half to a Grade 3 winner in America, and just descends from a lovely winning European family.
Danny, as we come to you, it's pretty unusual to get a European sprinting star in New Zealand. Normally you see those Australian sprinters come to New Zealand, but this is a bit of a treat for us, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a top international performer in some of those best speed tests in the Northern Hemisphere, and Coolmore obviously thought enough of this horse to use him in their Everest slot last year, which says a lot about the level of competitor that they valued him. Physically, he's just simply a better quality version of his old man. Warfront's the highest service fee in America, massively high profile, very effective in both America and Europe, and this horse is similar to him, but a much better version, dead correct, good quality horse, great mover.
And we're actually getting him at value for money, aren't we? I noticed in Europe his stud fee is €25,000 and we're getting him for 20,000 New Zealand dollars, so value for money as well.
Yeah, very much so. And as Danny said, his sire Warfront is proving very popular in both North America and Europe, and the Coolmore guys are pretty high on him.
Yeah, they've been buying some of those big yearlings by him for the last few years.
Let's move along to Ace High. He's standing at $10,000 at Rich Hill Stud. He's the son of High Chaparral, and Andrew, we've seen sons of High Chaparral really kicking some goals at stud.
Oh, very much so, and I'm very high on High Chaparral as a sire of sires, and we've seen So You Think doing a wonderful job. Done Deal has been really strong in the last 12 months or so. Toronado's started very well up in the Northern Hemisphere, and then we've got some young horses here in New Zealand, such as Tavachi and Contributor and Redwood.
Danny, he's a 2-time Group 1 winner, Spring Champion Stakes and a VRC Derby, and he's only the 4th horse in history to win that Spring Champion Derby double, isn't he?
Yeah, and a one-time favourite for the Caulfield Cup at the beginning of his 4-year-old season. So with all that comes a profile, and that profile is a big advantage to breeders when they produce those first yearlings at Karaka in a couple of years' time. He's a good-looking horse, this, and probably his best attributes, I'd say, is he makes up where High Chaparral was criticised in early days. He's got good bone, he's got a wicked hind quarter on him. He's a real nice horse, this.
Andrew, what can you tell me about his stam side?
He's out of a daughter of Redout's Choice. She herself's the half-sister to 3 stakes winners, including a Group 3 winner in Hong Kong. Grand Dam's a black-type place, Sunday Silence mare, so there's a lot of international blood there. And his 4th dam is a Roberto half-sister to the dam of Danehill. So it's really strong. It's that Sadler's Wells Danehill cross that's just done a great job.
Oddson at Waikato Stud is $8,000 this season. He's by Redout's Choice, and as we just mentioned earlier on, he's a great sire of sires, isn't he?
Redout's Choice, yeah. Unfortunately we lost him earlier this year, but he was a wonderful racehorse, a wonderful sire, and now better known as a sire of sires. Schnitzel's just won his 3rd Australian Sires Premiership in a row. Stratum, not a single doubt, and over here, Little Avondale's Nadine's done a very good job as well.
He's pretty interesting on the dam side as well, isn't he, through Miss Argyle?
Yeah, his dam's a listed place, daughter of a glacier, who's doing a pretty good job as a sire of sires. In fact, a sire of written tycoon who's really kicking goals in Australia. But it's a really strong, tough, running, sprinting Queensland family, black type right throughout the first 4 dams.
Danny, as we come to you, he has a pretty impressive race career as well, doesn't he? He was unbeaten at 2, he had a few trips across the Tasman as well, and he really did promise the world.
Yeah, he had a big reputation coming out of Stevens Marsh's stable there as a 2 and 3 year old. Didn't get his Group 1 win, but he was pretty stiff to run into a couple of handy gallopers in Melody Bell and the Bostonian that day in the BDC Sprint at Te Rapa. So any other year he would have won that race by panels on his form. Very good looking horse, probably not that typical of Sons of Redux, who sometimes are a little more heavy. I'd describe this horse as very attractive, very athletic, and possibly coming through from Last Tycoon, which seems to have worked at Waikato Stud, Andrew.
Yeah, very much so, and that Redux Choice Last Tycoon Cross has worked very well.
Yeah, and with some of the depth of the mares there at Waikato Stud and their clients and JML Bloodstock, he's going to get a very good start to his career.
Eminent comes next, $8,000 at Bright Hill. He's the first son of Frankel at stud in Australasia, and that's quite a coup, isn't it?
Oh, very much so, and we think of Frankel as a horse of the decade. 14 from 14, 10 at Group 1 level, horse of the year twice in Europe, and just some of those wins were just mind-blowing. You know, the 2000 Guineas where he just seemed to go faster and faster. The Queen Anne Stakes winning by 11, he won a couple of Sussex Stakes at Goodwood by 4 and 6 lengths. He was just a remarkable racehorse.
He's also doing a really fantastic job as a sire himself, isn't he?
Oh, started exceptionally well. Nearly at 50 stakes winners already. He's got a 17% stakes winners to runners percentage, which is just exceptional. We think of 10 as very good, and he's just doing a wonderful job. And they're winning at the highest level as well.
Danny, he's a pretty big, imposing horse to look at as well, isn't he?
Yep, he's a full-size horse, stands at 16-1. He's got size, scope, and he's in a good action, and he's dead correct. So any mares that might need that little lift in size and scope, he's going to be a good play. Truly deep pedigree, very American and European strength there, Andrew, and you know, the first access to Frankel in the Southern Hemisphere as well, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, and you know, a very good racehorse in himself. A Group 2 winner in France, Group 3 winner at Newmarket, and we all remember the runner-up performance here in the Ranvit behind Avilius.
Yeah, and that'll do his profile the world of good, having that Group 1 form in Australia and one of their biggest carnivals. And again, he's got a syndicate headed by Sir Peter and Bright Hill that will make sure that there's foals on the ground and give everybody that commercial confidence that there are going to be some nice mares going to him.
He's sort of blindsided by the fact he's by Frankel, but he's pretty strong on his dam side as well, isn't he?
Oh, very much so. His dam's a Group 1 performing daughter of King Mambo. Grand Dam by Sadler's Wells was a Group 1 winner and a champion in a couple of countries, and it's just full of you know, superior performers right throughout.
Ocean Emperor is standing for $7,000 at Weona Park, the last group-winning son of Zabeel to retire to stud, and he is from a lovely female family and a Waikato stud family, Andrew.
Yes, it's a family that's been nurtured by Waikato Stud through the years. His dam Tootsie was a Group 3 winner of the Mannerism Stakes at Caulfield. She's a sister to a Group 2 winner, Legless Verve, just last season. And it's the family of champion filly Savvy Cope and Karaka Million winner Probabile.
Danny, he enjoyed 28 starts for 9 wins, 5 placings, including a Group 2 victory and a little international excursion as well to the Kranji Mile in Singapore.
Yeah, he's a good-looking horse, and we saw a lot of him on the racetracks in New Zealand. He's a good quality Zabeel. You know, he was a dominant horse what he left Zabeel, and this is a really good version of one. And he made 450,000 at Karaka, and you can see why. He's a lovely horse, and he raced until he was 7 years old, and and that says a lot about his soundness and his temperament, which is always key with the Zabiels. Didn't get his group win until he was 6, but Gary and Jenny Hennessy have got a nice broodmare band around him, and they'll give him his opportunity, but he will also be relying pretty heavily on outside support for his commercial life.
Stefanos is going to be standing at Novara Park for $7,000, and he's got a really interesting pedigree and of course a really interesting career as well. 5 times Group 1 placed, and they weren't just in Japan, they're in Hong Kong as well, Andrew, at the elite level.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, a very strong, tough racehorse. I think he finished in the top 5 in 21 starts. A Group 3 winner at 3, but as you mentioned, a strong Group 1 performer at 4, 5, 6 and 7 in both Japan and Hong Kong.
He is, of course, son of one of the world's best sires in Deep Impact, who we recently lost as well.
Deep Impact, a great racehorse. He was Horse of the Year in Japan twice, but in the Stallion Barn, he's, we've just seen the best of him. 138 black type winners, 42 at Group 1 level, champion sire in Japan the last 7 years, leading sire of 2-year-olds, 8 of the last 9 years, and a son of Sunday Silence, and he's just continuing in that legacy.
Danny, because he doesn't have that Group 1 win, we get a real opportunity for breeders to invest in a fantastic pedigree and a really top-line racehorse.
Yeah, Group 1 winners by Deep Impact are hard to come by, and he might not be here in New Zealand if he did win his Group 1, but there's no doubting he was a very good racehorse up in Japan, came so close to winning a Group 1. Saw him in training quite a few times in Hong Kong when he did make it over for the internationals, and during the week there a lot of people watched the track work there, and he was a horse that there was a lot of buzz on after his morning gallops. He's a big striding, good actioned horse that looks like he'll suit New Zealand and Australian conditions, and that deep impact factor as well. There's a couple of stallions that stud in the Hunter Valley that are just a year or two ahead of him, that one of them kicks a goal, he's going to piggyback on that success, and he could be one to watch.
And with 6.2 million New Zealand dollars in the bank, it does make him the highest stake earner at stud in New Zealand. Jon Snow will stand at $6,000 at Clearview Park, and he's Group 1 winner of the AJC Derby, a Group 2 winner of the Tulloch Stakes and JRA Cup, and he's a really nice individual and a great opportunity for South Island breeders.
Oh, very much so. A horse that was good enough to win at 2. As you said, his best season was at 3. New Zealand ran 3rds in the Group 1 New Zealand Derby and the Live-In Classic before heading over to Australia and winning that Group 1 double, which is hard to do.
He's by a fantastic sire as well, isn't he, in Ifraj, who's doing a great job as a sire of sires.
Yeah, Ifraj is 69 stakes winners, 9 at Group 1 level, and we're starting to see his sons going to stud, Ribchester at Darley in Australia, Turmie Loose at Windsor Park here, and Wootton Bassett's doing a good job up in the Northern Hemisphere, and he's the sire of Almanzor, who's a Cambridge stud.
Danny, I like the fact that this horse was able to win or place at Group 1 level at 3 over the mile and also be effective at the Derby trip with that Derby win.
Yeah, he ran in some of New Zealand and Australia's top feature staying races, didn't he? And with that comes a profile, which we've discussed on a few of these horses, and Australians know that. And when you lob up with the yearling at Karaka by a first season sire, it's advantageous to have that profile. And he's a big, good-looking horse, and he's a huge get for the South Island breeders, and I really hope they get behind him. Yeah,
very much so, and he's got a lovely pedigree as well, directly descended from Soliloquy, who was just one of the best mares we've seen in New Zealand, and a family full of Group 1 winners.
And if I could just add to that, if ever you get the chance to go and see him at Clearview Park Stud, it's a beautiful bit of New Zealand. You can see the mountains on one side and the Timaru coast on the other.
On the bucket list stuff, Jon Snow at Clearview Park. Cambridge Stud present Embellish, who's going to be standing for $5,000 this season. And Andrew, it's Savabill's only Group 1 winning son at stud. And if you can't go to Savabill, what an opportunity to be able to go to Embellish.
Very much so. A superior racehorse. He's the 8th New Zealand 2000 Guineas winner to retire to stud this century, and when we think of horses like Darcy Brahma and Jimmy Choo and Turmie Loose, Sacred Falls, the legacy's there for him to have a great success.
Danny, he is from a fantastic Group 1 winning family, isn't he? You look at the names, you've got Diadem, you've got Sacred Star, it's all there on both sides, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very solid pedigree. He's by our champion sire. He was a high-profile yearling. He made good money. He was raced by the Tiakau team and won a classic race as a 3-year-old. You know, he's the full package, other than didn't get that run up to that group form in Australia. I just would say to breeders here, don't judge him by his service fee. I mean, this horse he's the proper package really, and he's physically he's a cookie cutter of his old man. You can see why he sold well, and you know, we can't get enough of Savabeel, and here's the next chance.
Well, that wraps up our first season sires. Of course, it would be remiss not to mention Roaring Lion, who unfortunately passed away before the New Zealand breeding season.
He genuinely was a bit different. He was as good a moving and as good a balanced yearling as I'd ever have seen.
It was just phenomenal. You know, he gave us a wonderful year last year.
The Lion roars at Sandown!
Just memory after memory after memory.
And the Lion really roars today. Roaring Lion gets up to win it! He's getting really tight, but Roaring Lion, the star of the season!
Everybody at the farm adored the horse. I myself walked with him every morning for an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. In fact, when he was getting a bit podgy and he had quiet days, we used to go for a run together and he would run alongside me. He became very much part of the family.
We're planting an English garden around him. We're putting a little pathway in so people can come and enjoy Roaring Lion. He was a world champion and he needs to be honoured appropriately, and hopefully lots of people will come and visit him.
Sadly, he's gone, but thankfully we've got a legacy of younger progeny that might come along, so hopefully his legacy will live on.
I have nothing but respect and gratitude for Cambridge Stud and Cambridge Equine Hospital. The care they showed him, the efforts that they went to were frankly staggering. He wasn't just a horse to us. He was very emblematic of who we are and what we do, and he was a mate as well. So it's been an unbelievable journey to be part of. We now have to look forward to his one crop of foals. We're going to be looking for him in every one of them.
Where did you grow up?
Martinborough.
What is your role here at LA Stud?
It's the toughest role around. I'm the boss's boss.
What's the biggest misconception about your job?
That it's an easy job.
Oceans or mountains?
Both, so long as it's not the city.
Sprinters or stayers?
Definitely stayers.
The race you'd most like to win?
Melbourne Cup.
What's your current obsession?
Current obsession is working out. We'll try to get this body to walk again.
Name your 3 dream dinner guests.
Graham Norton, Dolly Parton and Henrietta Tapstone.
What's your favourite race course?
I love Sharton and I love Ranwick, but Taranekau is pretty darn good.
Favourite jockey?
Favourite jockey, James McDonald.
Best racehorse you've seen in action?
We had a great win with a lower when I first came out of hospital, but watching Winx win her last race with my godson on the rail, that was number 1.
Thanks, Katrina.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the Waikato Equine Veterinary Centre, located just outside of Cambridge. This state-of-the-art facility has been trusted by some of the most successful names in the thoroughbred industry. We've been privileged to be invited inside the clinic and behind surgery doors to give you exclusive access into day-to-day life here. Over the next 8 episodes, we're going to be bringing you a range of different cases filmed over 2 days in early October. Doug, thank you so much for having the Kiwi Bred team out here. When you agreed to do it, what were you hoping to get out of having us here?
Oh, I think it's just nice to share this facility with the wider population of people who probably haven't seen it. It was a big investment for us, but we're just over the moon with it. We've had a lot of very positive and nice comments about it, both from people in New Zealand and overseas, Australia and the United Kingdom and North America. They've been here, they've been very impressed with it. I think it's a very, we like to think of it aesthetically, it's a very appealing property and very much in keeping with this part of the Waikato.
And tell me about the property here. When was it built and where were you before?
Well, if we go to before, the practice was established in 1950 by 3 veterinarians, and the building was Tirapa, on Tirapa Road, and it was relocated just up from there in 1986, and that building or that facility actually backed onto Tirapa Racecourse. Most of our clients at that time were that side of Hamilton, the Waikato, north side of Hamilton, but since the client population base has been more Cambridge and Matamata and Tiamuru related, it made sense to relocate, and this is what we did in 2016. This facility was opened by Sir Peter Vella and Lady Vella, and we've been working out of here ever since. So just on 3 years now, almost exactly.
And tell me a little bit about the considerations when putting this together. Did you have a really clear idea of what you wanted?
We did. We liked the concept of separate buildings, and we sort of designed it really with that in mind, and with the centre arena, and this is acquired really for doing pre-purchase and lameness examinations, and then use of the land for lameness examination areas, the separate surgery, and then we have some paddocks at the back and then some larger paddocks on the side here. So we wanted enough land and potential for expansion as well to build more boxes in the future if we needed it, and we love this area. It's very central and handy for Cambridge Track and for some of our bigger clients around here. It's north facing. It's very serene. It's just a lovely part of the Waikato.
Tell me a little bit about the facilities.
Yeah, well, we have 10 boxes here, and then we have 8 small holding yards or paddocks down the back, and we have 3 large paddocks here, which are used really primarily for mares that come in for reproductive work. The surgery was designed really primarily by our surgeon, Greg Quinn. He had a lot of input into that building, and it's a state-of-the-art surgical facility. It has separate knockdown and recovery boxes. It's a gantry, so we swing the horses in out of the knockdown box into the central surgical facility, surgical area. We have a brand new state-of-the-art surgical table for horses that came from Finland. It cost us a lot of money, but it does an amazing job really for safety and comfort of those horses during anaesthesia, and to reduce incidence of what we call post-operative myositis. So, and for surgical, the surgeon's comfort as well.
What about areas that you specialise in? Would you say there was an area that you specialise in here?
I think the practice really covers a wide spectrum of interests really in both equestrian and racing and breeding. And everybody has got certain areas of interest that they particularly either enjoy or have been trained in. So we have a specialist surgeon. He's a European board surgeon, but he also does a lot of in-house lameness referrals. We have 1 or 2, 3 veterinarians that are involved primarily with sport horse work. Some people involved with lameness work more than anything else, other people involved with reproductive side of things.
One thing that we've noticed since we've been here is the phenomenal work that your staff do. You must be so proud of the team you've got around you.
Team attitude, teamwork is just such a big part of any successful business, whether it's veterinary practice, if it's a racing team, if it's trackside. You always seem to get on very well as a team on trackside. I think teamwork is essential. We have 11 full-time veterinarians, including a full-time anaesthetist, and then we have 2 veterinarians that we take on in the stud season, or the busy time of year, really between late September and till after the yearling sale. So for sort of 5-6 months a year, we have 13 veterinarians, and for the rest of the year 11. We have 9 nurses, of which 7 are full-time and 2 are part-time. They may have another 5 or 6 staff involved with accounts, reception, management and so forth. So yeah, there's a fair number of us here, especially when you sit down and have a barbecue on a Friday night. There's a few mouths to feed.
So this is a patient that initially presented to the trainer as a 2-year-old in training, and the horse had shown some ability, but they'd noticed a loss of performance as it was galloping. And that loss of performance was associated with a mild respiratory noise. So as part of the investigations as a 2-year-old, the horse was endoscoped at rest. There were signs that the horse had a weak palate function, so it displaced its palate several times on the resting scope. A lot of horses as present as 2-year-olds, and especially fillies, will grow out of this problem, but unfortunately with a young racehorse, time is not on our side, so we're forced to sort of try something to improve the horse's performance before their career is effectively extinguished. So this is I think she's a 7-year-old mare. She had a foal last year, and she failed to get back in foal after that foal. I understand she had some foaling difficulties and maybe had a uterine infection after the foaling. We believe that these oviducts and these subfertile mares become clogged up with debris, secretions, and possibly having a previous infection may have got them a bit clogged up. So these mares appear to ovulate well. Stallions of optimal fertility have been used. By combining those two factors and putting the prostaglandin gel on the oviduct, physically getting quite intense muscular contractions through the oviduct, we can expel the material that might be clogged and allow a more clean passage of hopefully what should be the fertilised ovum getting into the uterus. This was a filly that got itself into trouble at a spelling farm, got caught up in a gate. One of our vets attended the horse out of hours, and the mare came into the hospital the next day just to be further evaluated. There was a concern that the heel bulb injury might need a cast, but she seemed a little bit painful, lamer than she should have been just for a few wounds. So we took some x-rays and found the fracture. The fracture was traumatic because of everything else she did to her leg. It just chipped this bone off. So I consulted a couple of experts overseas as well, and decided that the best thing would be to remove this particular fracture.
On the next episode of Kiwi Bred, we visit Surrey Farms' Christopher and Susanna Grace. Then we catch up with the successful ready-to-run pinhooking trio of Sam Beatson, Finbar Leahy and Ben Foote. Plus, our vet segment continues.